Welcome to Managerial Psychology presentation of Hasbro Interactive case study. First of all, please meet our group. We have Meng Yuanxie, Junwei Huang, Jiayue Wang, and Changxin Zhou. In this presentation, we're going to give a brief introduction of the case and key people, analyze 3 issues which are decision-making, communication, and motivation, and then give some suggestions. Hasbro is an American multinational toy and board game company. It has a range of product lines from toys and games to television programming, motion pictures, digital gaming, and a comprehensive lifestyle licensing program. In 1923, the company was founded as Hassenfeld Brothers. It first sold textile remnants and then expanded to pencil boxes and school supplies, and then its first toys, doctor and nurse kits, in 1940s. In 1968, the company continued to grow and went public. Till 1980, it became the biggest toy company. The case we're going to discuss is about Hasbro Interactive, which was created as a separate and independent division of Hasbro in 1995. Hasbro Interactive broke even and then continued growing at profit at the beginning. In 1997, its revenues more than doubled from $35 million to $86 million. The venture gained momentum through 1998 and generated $196 million in revenue. But in 1999, Hasbro Interactive has lost some of the revenues, and by the end of 2000, it was sold by Hasbro to a French company for $100 million. Next, let's see 3 key people who have significant influence on performance of Hasbro Interactive. Alan Hassenfeld, board director of Hasbro, has high agreeableness level, always trusted and supported Dusenberry, and also openness to experience. Tom Dusenberry, head of Hasbro Interactive, his high extroversion, being ambitious and aggressive, and would like to be the leader. Also openness to experience with being creative and visionary, but he's also overconfident on his leadership ability and too optimistic about the future of Hasbro Interactive, which is more likely to lead group in dangerous or independent directions. Jackie Daya, CFO of Hasbro Interactive since 1999, who prefers thinking, the feeling, and judging than perceiving when facing problems and making decisions. She's also more conservative about Hasbro Interactive's development and operation.
One problem is decision making. Decision making occurs as a reaction to a problem, which requires to consider alternative courses of action. In this case, Mr. Dusenberry made all operational decisions, including those relating to organizational structure, product selection, and partnership agreements. Further, some inappropriate decision makings led the company to a dilemma we couldn't find runway for further development. In terms of individual context, Mr. Dusenberry lacks professional background of finance and operation that influences company development. For example, in addition to higher than expected product returns, prices in the industry were dropping as competition intensified. On the other hand, Mr. Dusenberry's personality affects his decision. His consistently rosy projections, even in the face of bad news, eventually cost him his credibility. This kind of overconfidence bias, which we were usually not aware of, shows in aggressive sales tactics toward the end of 1998 had come back to haunt Hasbro Interactive. Additionally, this kind of personality contributes risk aversion. At that time, some senior executives expressed concern about the risk inherent in pursuit of such rapid growth, but nobody acted to stop the $1 billion aspiration. Mr. Dusenberry's excitement about his business potential to reach $1 billion was transparent to his colleagues. In terms of social context, Mr. Dusenberry didn't acquire enough information and data to evaluate and interpret the decisions. Since Hasbro Interactive is completely independent from Hasbro, the way to get useful information and data is not clear. Firstly, when it comes to licensing agreements, because Hasbro Interactive didn't consult with the professional department who do the research and require enough information, a huge loss was caused. Secondly, Mr. Dusenberry reported Vice Chair Sonny Gordon, who has legal background and expertise in mergers and acquisition, but he couldn't provide enough information and data to support the finance and operation of the company. There are two suggestions. Firstly, you should find a right partner to run out the mysterious skills. The person should have the personalities include rational thinking, a calm mind, and having a strong background of finance and operate. Secondly, building oversight from Hasbro to Hasbro Interactive, especially in the field of finance operation, is necessary. Hasbro helps to set overview plan of the whole year and make a limit about the investment and acquisition. And the chair of the Hasbro Interactive should report to the whole board every month.
Another problem leading to the failure of Hasbro Interactive is the lack of effective communication. Both types of miscommunication within Hasbro Interactive and between divisions cause conflicts and poor performance. Firstly, essential personnel didn't interact closely. When Mr. Dusenberry set a goal of 1 billion revenues, no one questioned the target, despite Mr. Hassenfeld believed Mr. Dusenberry were over-optimistic. Mr. Hassenfeld commented, "At the end of the day, it was my fault because I was watching over the whole thing." Secondly, Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive had little communication. Hasbro Interactive didn't consult and discuss with Hasbro. When they collaborated with Burger King, Hasbro already had a partnership with McDonald's. Poor interaction among them leads to redundant costs. Also, employees in Hasbro were disappointed and they lost confidence on Hasbro Interactive. Finally, decisions made by Hasbro Interactive's CFO led to an intense conflict. It had a series of adverse influence on performance. In 1999, when Ms. Daya replaced the CFO, she implemented a strict and exact financial system. The financial system didn't satisfy Mr. Dusenberry and his team because the system wasn't fit to their business. Without communication, Ms. Daya had little idea about Hasbro Interactive's culture. According to functional theory of communication, miscommunication of staff may lead to controversy. The conflicts between Ms. Daya and Ms. Dusenberry had a negative effect on people's morale, which in turn resulting in poor performance and low productivity. When we look at the conflicts, Mr. Dusenberry and his team emphasized on the innovation and the performance, but Ms. Daya focused on realistic and objective factors. The conflicts between them destroyed group dynamics, so the group were less productive and their problem-solving capabilities were also reduced. It also destroyed collaboration among the division. We have 3 suggestions. First, a close relationship and effective communication approach between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive should be established to foster trust and increase confidence. Second, establishing an active dialogue between employees can reduce conflict. When they get a problem, staff should present their view instead of complaining. Third, both divisions should strive toward a common objective.
The motivations which come from Wall Street and Mr. Desperay's desire is also one of the most important factors which led Hasbro Interactive into failure. Wall Street encouraged Hasbro Interactive to expand their revenues, but Mr. Desperay felt overconfident to make targets such as the goal of $1 billion revenues only in 3 years. Although some executives suggested to concern about a risky goal, no one can solve the $1 billion aspiration. Firstly, Mr. Desperay found that he had been concerned by Wall Street and frequently in front of Wall Street analysis. People will be motivated to perform in those work activities they find attractive. The praise from Wall Street was the reason that Mr. Desperay cannot stop making decisions hard-headedly. As Mr. Hassenfeld said, people become bigger than they really were. After that, Mr. Bowman and Mr. Desperay set a $1 billion goal. Mr. Desperay is such an ambitious person that he believed he can accomplish the goal and became a legend in Wall Street. When the goal is set, managers should enhance motivations by setting specific, challenging, and acceptable goals, and by giving feedback on performance. Unfortunately, Mr. Desperay did not. At last, Hasbro Interactive cannot offer options packages to developers. This trouble of recruitment led Hasbro Interactive to delay LaunchGame.com until 2001. Now turns into recommendations. Firstly, expectancy should be adopted. Mr. Desperay, as the leader of Hasbro Interactive, should not lose himself in expanding his ambition. This can be solved by Setting expectancy to employees, such as setting short-term and long-term goals. Also, having more communications between Mr. Desperate and others who give him different opinions to let him know who he really is and why does he make such a decision. Secondly, multi-year plans should be made at a time to enhance the accomplishment that they had already had. For example, if there was a multi-year plan, the employees cannot be over-motivated to believe they can accomplish the goal of $1 billion revenues. Finally, employees should be flexible, satisfied, and motivated to maintain an equitable exchange relationship. Rewards to employees is good for motivating them to better performance, but too much rewards, such as letting too many employees hold trade stock, will make them become greedy. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.